Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of Inside the Naval Postgraduate School. From our campus here in Monterey, California, I'm your host Alan Richmond right here on the Pentagon Channel. Welcome to the show. Well, in this episode, we have the honor of visiting with the Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, the Honorable Juan M. Garcia III. We'll also visit with the Interim President of the Naval Postgraduate School, Rear Admiral Jan Tighe. And reporter Natalie Stamey will introduce us to someone you'll absolutely love from the Dudley Knox Library here on our campus. But first, it's a visit with the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, the Honorable Juan Garcia. Juan M. Garcia III was confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Manpower and Reserve Affairs on September 16, 2009. In this capacity, he acts on matters pertaining to manpower and personnel policy within the Department of the Navy, including issues affecting active duty and reserve sailors, Marines, and Department of the Navy civilians. Garcia is an attorney, a former Texas state representative, and a second-generation naval aviator. Garcia served in Patrol Squadron 47 out of Naval Air Station Barbers Point, Hawaii, and completed deployments in the Persian Gulf and Western Pacific. He also served overseas as flag aide to the Deputy Commander, U.S. Naval Forces Europe in London, deploying as part of Operation Allied Force during hostilities in Kosovo. From 1999 to 2000, Garcia was selected to be a White House Fellow, serving as a special assistant to the Secretary of Education. He then reported for sea duty aboard the aircraft carrier USS Constellation CV-64, qualifying as Officer of the Deck Underway. In 2002, Garcia returned to the air as a flight instructor with Training Squadron 27 at NAS Corpus Christi. Garcia left active duty in 2004 and transferred to the Navy Reserve. He served as the commanding officer of Reserve Training Squadron 28 at Corpus Christi until becoming Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. Well, Mr. Secretary, thank you for taking time to be with us here on Inside NPS on the Pentagon Channel. It's good to see you again. Well, certainly you're no stranger to the Naval Postgraduate School, and one of your favorite stories, I know, is when you were here as a small child. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sometimes they say you have memories that logically are too far back. You were too young to recall, but in this case it was so powerful and so compelling that it's really my first childhood memory. I was here with my father, who was a young junior officer at the time. Back then, the academic portion of test pilot school used to take place here, and it was very soon after the return of the Vietnam POWs. An interesting part of Navy history, Everett Alvarez, who was it continues to be the longest held U.S. POW in American history, shot down at the Gulf of Tonkin after launching off on an A-4 off the USS Constellation, first night of the war. Held for 8.5 years in the Hanoi Hilton. And like many of his fellow POWs, when they came back medically requalified, their initial reassignment back in the fleet was here at Monterey. And so he was obviously a huge role model for my father. And for whatever reason, I was there with my dad as a very young boy. And I'll never forget the way he froze at what I now know as Herman Hall, the big, beautiful passageway. Froze and got down on one knee and whispered in my ear, pointed down to the other end of the passageway and said, "That's Alvarez. Go shake his hand." Retired Captain Alvarez has become a friend now, and it's I've shared the story with him as well. So it comes to mind every time I'm out here, and it's great to be back in Monterey.
That's a great story. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit now about the relevance of the Naval Postgraduate School to not only the nation, but to the Navy.
Well, especially after a decade's worth of combat, the longest sustained combat operations in American history. As we now engage in the new National Defense Strategy, the President, Secretary of Defense, the Service Secretaries, Service Chiefs rolled out earlier in the year, where we rebalance and look towards the Pacific, look to the West, and especially when we weigh the tyranny of distance that is the Pacific. State-of-the-art technology, maintaining that edge and that lead that occurs here, that is taught here, that is transferred here, that is researched here at the premier institution in the world for maintaining that edge has never been more critical. And that pivot to the Pacific and to Asia, Monterey will focus centrally on that.
One of the things we hear a lot about as officers leave the Naval Postgraduate School and advance in their careers is they form networks and relationships from their time here at NPS that lasts a lifetime. And I think that's one of the positive takeaways from NPS, don't you?
It's fascinating. As much, we use the Arab Spring example, as much turmoil was taking place over the last year and a half in that part of the world. The mill-to-mill, the military-to-military contacts, in many ways, have been the glue that's held our relations together and maintains the stability that exists in that part of the world, ensures safe and strategic transit through places like the Suez Canal. And those relationships were born, in many cases, at institutions like Monterey, where junior officer to junior officer can speak that international language of the professional military. As they advance in the ranks, they maintain those contacts.
I'm wondering how the time that you've spent in the Navy has helped shape your career.
You know, I have the privilege of I spent about 13 years as an active duty naval aviator and have the privilege of continuing to serve as a reservist today. And it's invaluable for the work I do. I feel like it allows me to keep a finger on the pulse of the fleet, know what's on sailors' minds. I get the ground truth from those guys. And allows me to see from a policy perspective what it means to a sailor on the hangar decks, turning wrenches, and operating gear out there on the water.
Well, during your stay here at the Naval Postgraduate School, I know that we're touring lots of labs and you'll have the opportunity to meet with lots of our students at NPS. I'm just wondering, what is the bottom line message that you have for them?
I want them to know that that NPS in Monterey continues to be, from the leadership, from the E-ring of the Pentagon, continues to be considered a jewel in what we do, a central role, and that's not going to change, and that it hasn't changed. They'll get that message. I want to see the work they're doing as well.
Tell us about the new program, the 21st Century Sailor Marine.
10 years into the longest sustained combat operations in American history, we've asked and demanded a extremely demanding operational tempo from our sailors and Marines and their families. And now with this new pivot, this rebalance towards the West and the Pacific, that is, by any objective analysis, is a Navy and Marine Corps strategy, it's a sea service strategy. There's every reason to believe that operational tempo's not going to let up in the near future. So against that backdrop, last spring, the Secretary of the Navy, CNO, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, and the MCPON, the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, stood together shoulder to shoulder on the USS Baton and rolled out this initiative we're calling 21st Century Sailor Marine. And the idea is to take all those existing programs, new programs, and things like our Wounded Warrior support, bring them all together into one overarching rubric we call 21st Century Sailor Marine. The key pillars of 21st century are safety, our readiness, our physical fitness, our continuum of service, and inclusion. And the Wounded Warrior effort falls squarely under continuum of service. We want our members to know that the relationship between the Navy and the Marine Corps and an individual and his family does not end at the end of their formal uniform service. It's a lifelong relationship. They're going to continue to have the best support, access to the premier technology.
Wondering if you can give us an overview of how you see today's Navy.
I think we've got the right size fleet to execute this new national defense strategy. And as our Army brethren, for example, as we wrap up in Iraq and begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel in Afghanistan, they've got some big changes, some real mission redefinition to do. We don't think we're there. The Marines will come down, but they'll still be bigger than they were on 9/11. The Navy, we've got the size fleet we need to execute this strategy. Now it's just a matter of putting the right sailor at the right billet. This is the size force we're going to need. Our fleet inventory is only going to get bigger. We're poised and in position to execute the new national defense strategy.
I know that one of the key goals for Secretary Mabus was the Green Navy. How are we doing on that front?
Well, he set a series of ambitious goals, in some ways premised on the same way that Assistant Secretary Roosevelt 100 years ago launched a great white fleet to demonstrate U.S. naval strength around the globe. We launched a great green fleet. And this past summer during RIMPAC, our huge exercise in the Pacific with our allies and partners, we sailed a carrier strike group where every asset in the strike group, the carrier, obviously the submarines, every aircraft, and each of the support ships were powered by either nuclear or bioreusable fuel. First time it's ever been done. And the message we're saying to the fleet and to the world is that in the same way we won't rely on access to other countries' runways because we bring our own, ultimately we won't rely on access to other countries' fuel and resources because we'll bring our own. It's a game changer.
Well, Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for taking time to appear with us here on Inside NPS on the Pentagon Channel. Welcome home, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Grateful for your work, grateful to be back in Monterey.
We'll be back with more on Inside the Naval Postgraduate School right after the break here on the Pentagon Channel. The new interim president at the Naval Postgraduate School is Rear Admiral Jan Tighe. Rear Admiral Jan Tighe was appointed by the Secretary of the Navy, Ray Mabus, to the position of interim president of the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California in November of 2012. Rear Admiral Tighe has a BS in mathematics from the U.S. Naval Academy and was commissioned an ensign, special duty cryptology in 1984 following graduation. She's also a distinguished graduate of the Naval Postgraduate School, awarded an MS in Applied Mathematics, as well as a PhD in Electrical Engineering in 2001. She also studied Russian at the Defense Language Institute Foreign Language Center, also in Monterey, California. Rear Admiral Tighe earned Naval Aviation Observer wings in the Persian Gulf during Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. She accumulated over 1,200 operational flight hours in the EP-3E aircraft. She commanded over 2,800 multi-service, multi-agency personnel at the National Security Agency Central Security Service Hawaii in Kunia. She also served for a year as the executive assistant to the director of the National Security Agency Chief, Central Security Service, and Commander, U.S. Cyber Command. Her flag tours include Deputy Director of Operations for Cybercom and Director Decision Superiority on the OPNAV N2 N6 F4. So, Admiral, you're a graduate of the Naval Postgraduate School, and I'm wondering how your experience here at NPS helped shape your naval career.
My decision to come to the Naval Postgraduate School was a lot like Robert Frost's The Road Last Traveled. Two roads diverged, and I chose NPS. At the time, I was very embroiled in the operational Navy and very much craved the operational experiences that I had had as a cryptologic officer, particularly during Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and flying during missions during those operations. But I also felt there was something missing in my knowledge base. I felt that I could bring more to the warfight if I had greater technical depth in the areas of signals intelligence, cyber, and electronic warfare that the cryptologic and IW community have as core skills. And so my decision to come to the Naval Postgraduate School then allowed me to pursue sort of the technical underpinnings of the community and core skills that we value. My business is very technical, but that doesn't mean all officers have to have PhDs in electrical engineering in order to do this job. But I felt like I needed to bring more, and it was a personal goal of mine to come to the Naval Postgraduate School. And within my first 6 months of being a master's student in electrical engineering, the Navy offered the Navy doctoral program in electrical engineering for cryptologic officers at the time. And so then I really diverged by jumping onto that path. But the technical side in electrical engineering so well supported the business that I was in, be it communications engineering, digital signal processing, electromagnetics and antennas, and computer engineering. All of that type of study well supported my future endeavors in the Navy. And I think not a day went by in all the jobs that I had after graduation where I wasn't using my education in some way, shape, or form in the Navy. And so that's not to say that I went to all technical jobs. I had some of those. But I also had leadership jobs, I had staff jobs, I had operational jobs, and because my degree is so relevant to the work that we do, I was able to bring something more to the fight, and had the opportunity to study and create basically a toolkit for myself that could be used throughout my career in the Navy. And that's an opportunity that not a lot of folks get, and so I'm very privileged and blessed to be able to have had that opportunity. And it's worked out so far for me, so hopefully the Navy agrees that their return on investment is there.
Well, it was all in preparation because you return now to the Naval Postgraduate School as the interim president. And I'm just wondering, what are some of your goals as you look ahead for the year 2013?
Well, my principal goal would be to make sure that this institution is stronger in 2013 than it was in 2012. And by stronger, I mean better business processes, better able to focus on our mission clarity in terms of being able to educate our students in the best possible way. One of the areas I think it's important to get clarity on is this idea of research and the role that research plays in graduate education. It's not a question, it's really, or a balancing act, it's really an element of the education for our students. And so conducting relevant research here is sort of the capstone event for our students, and having that relevant research then allow them to apply all of the knowledge that they gain during their coursework and be able to further develop knowledge based on their research. And then finally deliver a product that's relevant to the Navy or the DoD or the nation based on their education is a critical aspect of their learning. And I think that being able to focus on those aspects and strengthen that which we do best and that we are being asked to accomplish is the most important thing we can do in 2013.
Now, along with that, of course, comes certain challenges. What are some of those challenges that you've identified that you think you might face?
Well, certainly we have challenges in and around our business processes that has been made very clear. There are some things we do very well. Our students and delivering the education to our students is done very well at this school. The research we produce, done very well. And then the question becomes, how can we be more efficient and effective in the business processes that underpin the pursuit of those two main missions that we have? And so we're looking across the campus to bring in people that are involved in various processes that need improvement or need modification to be compliant with DoD regulations and Navy regulations. And we're going to bring in a fairly diverse group to try to make sure that our process improvements well serve both the customer and the process owners.
In your opinion, what would you say is really unique about an NPS education?
Certainly, first and foremost, our students are unique just all in of themselves. We have the best students in the world, without a doubt. I mean, they're getting paid to go to school at the graduate education level. They tend to be more mature. Their careers really hang in the balance in terms of their academic success. They have to succeed. Our faculty knows that they have to succeed and work very hard to make sure that they are available to help them in the classroom, outside of classroom hours, in their thesis and research study. So that is, we've got that down to an art, and our faculty really works hard to make sure that our students succeed. Many of those students don't come to the Naval Postgraduate School with an undergraduate education in the course of study that they're going to pursue. So sort of the transition between what their undergraduate academic background was and what they need to be doing graduate work in is something that we've also gotten down to an operational art. We have an ability to very quickly take students that have been out of the classroom for a long time. When I came here, I had been out of the classroom for 14 years. So we're able to take all kinds of students coming in the door and get them very quickly up to speed and into graduate education courses that are aligned with the needs of the Navy or their service. And so that is one of our big unique advantages. I've also recently heard from our students that are graduating that they didn't realize how much they would derive from being in a classroom with students from other, even from other communities within the Navy. They've learned a lot about other aspects of the Navy based on spending time with people from different communities. The same is true for other services. The same is true for our international students and other DoD and federal agencies that put students in our classroom. And so they are certainly learning together, but they are learning not only the content of what's in the class, but about each other and about the Navy and other services. So I think that's quite a unique benefit that NPS brings in having a graduate institution like this.
Well, Admiral, thank you very much. We wish you all the best, and thanks for taking time to be here on the Pentagon Channel with us.
Thank you, Alan.
Well, this is part one of a two-part series with Rear Admiral Ty. Part two will be on next month's show here on the Pentagon Channel. Well, stay with us. We have more to come on Inside NPS right here on the Pentagon Channel after the break. Welcome back to the show. Well, in the NPS Spotlight on this edition, Natalie Stamey, our new reporter here on the show, has someone special that you'll love from the Dudley Knox Library here at the Naval Postgraduate School. Natalie?
Here on the campus of the Naval Postgraduate School, the Dudley Knox Library is a central hub for students and faculty in their program studies. It's arguably one of the most important parts of the institution, as its resources and documents are integral pieces of the research and teaching process. But tucked inside the library, there are more than just shelves of manuscripts and theses. There are future military leaders seeking out the most impacting answers to research questions that will shape our nation for years to come. And there is also one woman who is aiding them in this quest.
The ability to search the theses.
As the content manager for the Homeland Security Digital Library and supervisory librarian at the Dudley Knox Library, Greta Marlatt is responsible for providing resource collections for important national security research.
My actual position title is Outreach and Collection Development Manager. I also serve as a reference librarian, so I have subject areas, and I also work with the Center for Homeland Defense and Security and the Homeland Security Digital Library.
But spend 5 minutes exploring her office with its stacks of books and many personal keepsakes from students, and you will realize that it's not just many hats that she wears, but rather an overarching passion to support the military's higher education that she supports.
I love working with the students here, the military students and the Homeland Security students. I love the fact that they're 24/7. You know, while they're here, they're students, but in the military, you know, these guys are 24/7. They're on call. They're all over the world, you know, making a difference to a student that's here, and then he goes off and comes back and says, hey, can you do this? Or somebody comes along because they've been influenced by that. It's kind of the pay it forward. You never know who you're influencing. And that's been important to me because these guys don't work an 8-to-5 job. They need help when they need it, not just when it's convenient for me.
Greta was recently recognized for her dedicated service with the prestigious I Love My Librarian Award, a collaborative program of Carnegie Corporation of New York, the New York Times, and the American Library Association. This national honor is given to just 10 librarians each year.
I get the New York Times at home every day. And a couple of years ago, I read that they had this competition, I love my librarian. And I said, geez, that looks good. I think I'll nominate Greta. And then I thought about it. I farmed it out to 3 or 4 other people, figuring that it would maximize her chances. All of these folks were very happy to write. And I'm sure if I'd asked others, but I figured 4 is enough. And we're very happy to see that she was picked.
But what meant a lot to me was that it came from the people I serve. It wasn't my colleagues, it was the people that I've helped who said, hey, we really do care. We want to say something about it.
Greta has taken her expertise beyond the walls of the Dudley Knox Library and outside of the gates of NPS to reach a global community with the signature weekly email blast that has grown so popular. Her recipients now include hundreds of students, several foreign dignitaries, and U.S. senators.
She sends out a weekly email that's got probably 20 to 40 new Congressional Research Service reports, and then probably 50 links to various think tanks and non-governmental organizations throughout the world. This is a weekly service, weekly.
So widely known are her resources that a past student sought out her email when he became the aide to the commander of U.S. and ISAF forces in Afghanistan, General Stanley McChrystal. The aide's request was simple.
He emailed me and said, could you do a kind of short version of that email and only focus on Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran? And he said, well, The general would really appreciate it. I was like, okay, well, I guess. So subsequently now I do a subset that still goes out.
In addition to the emails and a blog that she updates with national security affairs resources, Greta also brings the library to the classroom as a regular contributor to writing composition classes, where she instructs new students on the basics of accessing and utilizing the library's volume of resources. University librarian Eleanor Eulinger says that this passion to supply quality resources to students is a theme that runs throughout the Dudley Knox Library staff.
Everything that we do is set up for reaching out to those students. We have students and faculty all over the world, so we mail them books from our collections, we get materials for them that we don't own, we turn them around as quickly as we can. Our role in is that we are helping along as partners with the faculty in creating lifelong learning opportunities that they'll carry with them and they will use, and they will know the resources are there, they will know how to get access to them.
In an effort to make the Dudley Knox Library more user-friendly and student-focused, new collapsible shelving is currently being installed to open up more study space. The upgrades throughout the building are the outward expression of the quality services that are constantly being offered by the library.
It's up to us to provide them with the best information and the best analysis. So I tell the students, take advantage of this library, take advantage of Greta. The library is open all the time.
We'd like to extend a special thank you to all the staff at the Dudley Knox Library for all their support and resources that they offer the students here at the Naval Postgraduate School. Alan, back to you.
Thanks, Natalie. Well, that's it for this edition of Inside the Naval Postgraduate School. From Monterey, California, I'm your host, Alan Richmond, here on the Pentagon Channel. We'll see you next time. Take care.